hear me okay? Awesome. All right, I'm really excited to be here today with you all. Look, yes, my name is Patima, so a quick introduction. I'm the Head of Product and Design at 7 West Media, which is based over in Australia. And as mentioned, yes, I'm from Perth, and we do have very adorable quokka animals. So that's kind of me that's travelled over here for the first time ever in Europe, and I'm super excited to be here. It's amazing and it's quite an experience. So I bring over with me a little bit of Aussie slang. So I suppose I have been told that my accent is quite strong, so I hope you can all understand me, but we do like to have a few idioms where we connect and concatenate some words together. And one of the words that I want to run through with you all today is hard yakka. Now, who's heard of the term hard yakka before? Okay, we've got a few hands here. Cool. Hey, in the back there. Now, hard yakka is basically, well, the meaning of it is basically hard work. And it comes from rural slang, essentially. So in the country, there's wood, which is referred to as yakka. And hard yakka is that meaning of hard work and work ethic. And this term reminds me of my granddad. Look how cute he is. He's so adorable. That's a really big picture. But he's one of the most hardworking people that I know, and he's got an amazing work ethic. And he's also one of those people who just has sage advice for any scenario. And he's one of my greatest role models. So he'll say things like, work hard and be good to your mother. Listen before you speak. And never say gonna, because if you're gonna, you haven't done it yet. And he's taught me a lot about work ethic and having just, I suppose, that determination to really apply myself and to work hard no matter what the circumstance, and just set goals and go for it. So he's really taught me a lot about resilience and diligence and determination, of course. But this transition of work ethic and hard yakka in our industry has been something that I've been trying to adjust to for this, 15 years I've been here working in the web. And I suppose that concept of it is tricky because, well, the state of our industry is something that requires a lot of mental willpower. And there's something that is not quite the same about it like other industries would have in a traditional sense. So I suppose I just wanted to ask you all a few questions today, because this is something that's been swirling around in my mind for a little bit. And it's the observation of, I suppose, what's become normal in our industry. Constant learning. So what I mean by this is, well, as you all know, in our industry, we're always learning something new. So I suppose here's a simple question for you all. Who's learnt something new this week? Last week? Last month? Daily? It's continuous and constant learning. And it's also continuous change. Another question for you all. Who's doing the exact same workflow as what they did 2 years ago? 1 year ago? 1 month ago? Okay. Sounds about right. Also, community. Oh, no, connectivity. I've jumped forward. So who hops on their laptops or their machines after work or on the weekends? Oh, that's a lot of hands. Yep, me too. And who goes out and hangs out with the community a fair bit? Who runs or volunteers at or attends meetups all the time? Contributions. Who's contributed to open source software in this last week? This month? This year? Yeah. And the last C that I wanted to bring in and talk about in the state of our industry is also creativity. And in that sense of how many of you have a side project going on or are working on a side project, have worked on a side project, thinking about working on a side project. Yeah. That's a lot happening, right? We're doing all of this stuff, probably on top of full-time work or full-time study, and that's a lot of hours that we're putting into this world. So then I kind of got to thinking about, what is it that we value and normalise as good, strong work ethic in our industry? What's the hard yakka here? And really, it's what we value, right, as human beings and as professionals. And we kind of hear these kind of praises that swirl around and humble brags that happen. These might sound familiar. They're such a gun dev, they're super fast. And then we might do the whole, I worked 9 hours today, well, I worked 10 hours today, and I worked 24. And there's like this kind of humble brag thing that's happening. And, it's this kind of sense of, well, that is what we consider maybe working harder. But then we've also got this kind of world surrounding us as well, which is, blog posts and contributing and working on side projects and mentoring and all of these other things that we do to kind of keep progressing our career forward. And then we kind of have this really hard work mentality. But we do all these things of, well, there's so much to do and I'm so busy, and these are the general normal conversations that we have. And to me, I kind of worry, because what we're saying to not only ourselves but to the people that are looking up to us or that we speak to day, the things that we're praising each other about are saying things like this. So I suppose more translations, that somehow high performance is related to shipping things quickly, regardless of quality, tech debt, maintainability. We're saying, hey, yeah, smash it out, let's go get all the things done. Or that clocking hours becomes this badge of pride that's somehow related to productivity because we're doing so much all the time and we're always busy. Is that a good thing? And doing all of these things somehow is expected of us to get ahead in this industry. If you're not doing all of those things that I was listing out before with the state of our industry, somehow, are we performing the best that we can? Are we meeting our potential? And the other thing I'm reading into it is, if we're always busy and needed, then this relates to somehow the I'm valuable conversation. So I see a few nods out there, and this is kind of my reaction to it. Like, what is happening to our industry? It doesn't quite sound right, kind of like this. It's like a little, yeah. Oh, I love it. So I suppose when we're kind of looking at Googling, good old Google, levelling up, if we want to level up as a developer or a human being, then all of a sudden we have to go, well, what are the steps that we need to take to do that? And are all the things that are expected of us fair? And I came across this tweet from Eric Elliott a little while ago, and it really got me thinking, and it's one of those reflective pieces, right? It's like, think of the most extraordinary developer you've ever worked with, and what are the traits and qualities that they have? And the results of this survey, he wrote a great blog post about it, so feel free to go forth and check it out. He came out with these top 5 qualities: communicative, efficient, collaborative, committed, honest. Cool. Top 5 traits: problem solver, skilled, mentor, teacher, excellent learner, passionate. Yeah, cool. Not bad. These are things that I would personally expect as any kind of working professional to have these kind of skills and traits. But, kind of add to this, we'll see lots of mind maps around about the state of the web, and wow, that just keeps going. And, that's from front end to back end to DevOps to sitting this full stack world, and it's so full on, and we're just learning all these things constantly, and there's all these expectations on it. We should know everything, and then it's tiring. Do we accept this? Do we accept that this is a healthy environment, that we want people to come into our industry and go, hey, yeah, working 10 hours to 15 hours to getting no sleep and being busy all the time is cool? Yeah, I don't know. With this state of the world, I feel like it's no wonder we're exhausted, and it's no wonder we're seeing people talk about, I suppose, the signs and symptoms of burnout. And I find that really concerning because there's some really talented people that are kind of hitting this stage and they're not able to recover, and they're leaving the industry or changing the industry or taking these massive breaks. And when we're thinking about it in a physical sense, there's actually a thing called OTS. Turns out it's a symptom. Overtraining syndrome is something that is used to describe athletes who have completely trained themselves to the state of, or overtrained themselves to the state of mental or physical exhaustion. And this is mega. This is something that is an imbalance of this simple equation, which is that training should be the result of workout and recovery. But when an athlete is diagnosed with OTS, they're often out for 4 to 6 months. Now, I've broken a few limbs in my time, and that really only puts me out for 6 to 8 weeks. So this is massive, and if we translate this into how this could work with the mind, if we're burnt out from just mental exhaustion of having to keep up with our industry and the state of how things are, then our energy is just going to be pretty low, and it's pretty hard to recover back from zero. When we get towards our energy bar, actually, who plays Mortal Kombat or who has played Mortal Kombat? Yeah, that is the analogy that I'm thinking of. Like when your power bar just goes low, and you're at this stage of, well, you could lose this game. Boo. But really, with that is when you've got full energy, you can do so much more. You can be creative and energetic and, just be really inspired. But when you're low on energy, you start to have these uncharacteristic things happen to yourself. Like you start forgetting things, you start having trouble with communication, or you start just being overwhelmed, or it gets too much sometimes. And this is something that I've experienced at one point in my time. Over that 15 years, there was a point where I was working so much and not getting much sleep. And what I decided to do was make a change of reducing from full-time hours to 3.5 days a week. What that meant was that 2 people came on board full-time to replace that 1.5 days that I wasn't working. I feel like that wasn't right. Maybe. So, 0. That's not a good thing when we're thinking about energy. So how do we go about, well, what are the ways that we can move towards recharging this energy bar? Let's not maybe get to that 0 point. Let's see how we might be able to restock our pantries. And actually, is pantries a word that's used here? Yeah, like a cupboard with food? Yeah. Yeah, maybe? Okay, so pantry is like a cupboard that would exist in your kitchen that you would actually store things like canned foods in, and okay. So look, when that's empty and you go in to reach in for more food and nothing's there because you haven't been restocking it, well, that's kind of the same thing with our energy stores. And ways that we can recharge are actually pretty achievable. They're all pretty doable. And I'll run you through a few of these methods, like taking regular breaks, removing the noise, getting quality sleep, not working long hours, and working on things that are meaningful to you. So let's unpack these a bit further, because I think that they're really important, and there's some really, I suppose there's some tools out there that we can use to really help us along with this process. So taking regular breaks, yeah, sounds simple, but it takes a lot of discipline. It actually takes a lot of willpower to do this, and when you're super, super busy all the time, or if there's a culture that, or within your workplace that taking breaks equals laziness and slacking off, maybe that makes it even more of a struggle to actually start doing that. So who does actually take regular breaks? Oh, that's wonderful. That's really great. Because, breaks can actually, there's science that supports this. There's a lot of studies which breaks can replenish. There are psychological costs associated with working hard, improving work performance, and boosting energy. What they're actually helping do is that doggo, your PFC, your prefrontal cortex, that's the thinking part of your brain. That's the part that takes on, all of the logic and the concentration and executive functions, keeps you focused. So that's doing a lot. So that's the part that you're actually using to solve a lot of the problems in your day-to-day. And because it's doing so much, I feel like doggo should get a break, right? Let's recharge. So how can we take an effective break? Schedule them at right times. Know when you're really productive. And I suppose one of those, saying that is fairly easy, but actually knowing when you're really productive and what methods you might take to go, okay, well, I'm going to go in a sprint mode here and then take a rest here, it's different and individual to how, we all work individually as well. So that is something I know a lot of people raise their hands, but that's something that, is a little bit of tweaking required so that we might recharge that chance of that overload that we're feeling. Taking an effective break is about leaving your desk, leaving your workstation, giving your eyes a rest, standing up and stretching, drinking water, actually taking yourself out of that environment, leaving, and then recharging and come back. I can't begin to tell you how many times I've walked away from my desk and was able to come back after trying to figure out something for ages, coming back and it was a stinking semicolon or something ridiculous like that. So that's all it took. And it took me a little while to break out of this because I had this hard yakka mentality. I just wanted to keep going at it. And taking a break kind of meant that, maybe I am slacking off. Maybe I just need to push through. But that push through was really detrimental to me. So the tools that I used was using my calendar, actually blanking out times of when I was going to design in those breaks was really important because then I was taking control of that calendar and taking control of that space. Something like Slackbot reminders of standing up. Who uses Slack here? Okay, cool, about 50%. Setting up a Slackbot or whatever tool you might be using internally there to have little notifications to remind yourself to stand up and stretch every now and then is really, really excellent. And I had that designed in for my team that I was working with, and we're doing that twice a day. And we use that as an activity to get away from our desks and just muster in the middle and take a little stretch break. It was only 5 minutes, twice a day, and it just meant that we were able to have that break. Who's heard of Tiny Carebot on Twitter? Yeah, a few hands there. It's really adorable. I would suggest if you are on Twitter, hop along and follow it along because there's just like really simple little gems that really just give you a little boost. So let's move on to the next part of topping up your energy bar. Removing noise. Now, when we think of working or in agile development in any sense, we want to remove all that noise and have this really, clear focus on what we're working on so that we're not distracted by everything else that's going on and not thinking about the backlog. We are basically ensuring that what we're working on is the important thing that we're working on or supposed to be focused on right there and then, and we can give it our 100%. So what we want to do is remove the noise so that we're not doing a situation where when everything's important, nothing's important scenario, and trying to multitask and, splitting our focus across a few things. So how might we want to reduce unwanted noise? Same kind of agile methodologies. Having calendar hygiene and checking in on that regularly. And the calendar is something that is such a strong tool that you can use in your day-to-day. By taking control of it, you can blank out these areas in your day that you might be able to go, okay, well, I can focus for an hour block here on this particular task, or I can blank out this whole day to just play or learn or whatever that might be. And it means that you can kind of continuously look at it and take out things that might not be relevant anymore. Maybe you don't need to go to 6 meetups this week. Maybe you could just choose one that you really want to focus on. Writing things down and getting them out of your head, I highly recommend it because when it's all swirling around up here, it's just noise. So writing down the things that you want to achieve and what you want to do, and then going through and grooming those goals, definitely a winner. It's something that really helps with that focus piece. Do not disturb modes are another massive one if you're going to go into a sprint. A sprint being, so if you wanted to do a 20-minute session of just focus. And then taking away those notifications as well during those times, or notifications when you're out of hours and after work. We probably don't need to be pinged at all of these times. And most importantly, probably saying no is a tricky one to do, but it's all about taking control of our lives and taking control of the time that we're spending on what we're doing day to day, because there's this temptation to just take on a lot all the time, but it's unnecessary. So I've suggested calendar a few times and taking control of that. Headspace app is a really good app for meditation and bringing in mindfulness into the approach, and that is something that you can essentially use to reduce the noise that's going on in there. But it's a great tool if that's where you'd like to head to. There's also a Slack bot called Stop, Breathe and Think, which is pretty good as well. It brings up little reminders for you. And I don't know has anyone used the Momentum plugin? It kind of looks like this. Yeah, we've got a couple of hands there. It's a great little Chrome and Firefox plugin that you can install, and it just gives you a focus mode. So you can just focus on one task at a time. And then you have your other little goals that you have set up as a list on the side. And yeah, it just gives you that chance to just go, okay, I'm just going to hone in on one thing and one thing only. How great. And that was the Slack bot that I was talking about. Okay, on to a third way of recharging your energy bar. Getting sleep. What does a life look like without healthy sleep? Lack of concentration, tiredness, inability to make decisions, memory loss, lower tolerance. It's not great. It's not great. And I did actually go through a time where I was getting about 4 hours of sleep a night for about 3 years running. I was able to persevere, and that hard yakka mentality really pushed me through it. But it really got me to a point where I was not starting to like what I was doing anymore. It was possibly just a bit much. I just did not think that I could sustain this. And when we're thinking back to OTS, I was getting pretty tired. And I came across this quote, and I thought it was pretty apt. If you routinely lose sleep or choose to sleep less than needed, the sleep loss adds up. The total sleep lost is called your sleep debt. E.g., if you lose 2 hours of sleep a night, you'll have a sleep debt of 14 hours after a week. And turns out, sleep debt's not something that can be paid off via naps either. This is, it's a fundamental of actually being able to have a good night's sleep and be rested enough to be able to tackle the following day. There's so many resources out there about going, okay, well, how do we get a good night's sleep and actually be rested and well recovered and energised up? And look, just a few things that can get you started along the way if you're having trouble sleeping at all. Avoiding looking at a device an hour before bedtime, scheduling consistent bedtimes, use that calendar. Avoid alcohol and caffeine 5 to 6 hours before bed. Sometimes that's hard, especially when the after parties are so good. And exercising during the day. These are just really simple things and simple steps that you can take towards that. And it's that first step that is the one that really takes you towards putting and prioritising your wellness first there. So I'll quickly just run you through, try these tools. There's, having the recurring reminder in your app or in your calendar. There's sleep cycle apps, and there's a sleep bot app as well, which actually monitors the patterns of your sleep patterns, and then it wakes you up nicely in a window that's not within your REM. And I've got 2 more things to go through. Don't work long hours. Easy to say, little trickier to do, but super important. There's this term that happens, I suppose, in our industry, and actually a lot of industries, called presenteeism. And this is the practice of being present in one's place of work for more hours than is required, especially as a manifestation of insecurity about one's job. It's not great. It's not great. And when we have the culture of, remember I was saying when, you I suppose hear the praise about, oh, well, I worked 10 hours and I worked 20 hours and hey, good on you, great. But did they actually get much done during that time? Was that really productive? And were they able to recover from that? So let's kind of play out the scenario of what it would look like if we were to happen to leave on time. Well, you would leave work on time. Look, maybe, who knows, improvement on time management and communication, because if you are leaving at the time you are supposed to be leaving, perhaps people might be more prepared to catch you before you go. Maybe they might be more organised to say, okay, well, I really need you for X, Y, Z, can we catch up in the window where you're available? And you might then become a better communicator of saying, well, I'm not going to be available from this time onwards. Maybe catch me in a window that I am available. Again, taking control of that calendar again. And, I mean, it sounds pretty awful, but you'll get time to do the things that you really like to enjoy, or enjoy doing, or that are important to you. Wouldn't that be a bit ace? So here are the methods I would suggest, just getting started with that, because it can be a bit difficult, especially if there's a culture within your workplace where people are staying back or they are online all the time, because that's the state of our industry, right? So maybe just start by booking in a few after-work appointments, whether that's a coffee and a cake with someone, whether that's a walking catch-up with someone else. But having a regular routine, maybe something like a fitness group or rock climbing or whatever activity you might want to take on that you're doing with someone else, means that you have that responsibility buddy that you can go out and do it together. And so committing to leaving on time is really something that's going to take a lot of discipline, and working in that habit might be a little tricky at first, but then you start to be okay with it. And here's a really important one if you are working on a lot of open source projects. Ask your boss and create that culture within that environment that you're working in for these contributions to be happening during work hours. I think this is professional development. I think this is the way, as an employee or someone working in the industry, you're growing your skills in that way, and that training should be endorsed and encouraged within work hours in some way, shape or form. So, that, and also if you're going to a lot of meetups, that's also training as well. Maybe try and balance that out with, okay, well, if I'm going to a meetup on one night, hey, can I come in later the next day, because that was learning time. And just taking control of that a bit more so that you might be able to spend time on things that matter. And the hard yakka side of it really comes into knowing and understanding that your time is precious, and really that's our most valuable commodity. So shouldn't we be dedicating that to things that bring us joy or making us more us? What about spending time with family and friends? What about prioritising your interests and hobbies? Learning and discovery and playing, travel, exploration. We're all very unique human beings that are inspired by different things, so why not embrace that? And something that might help towards that, so that you might have some more energy to contribute to it, is starting to journal. Getting things out of your head and reflecting on it means that you might have that chance to actually see it laid out, and rather than just swirling around your mind, feel free to get a Pinterest or a happiness board up and running. It's just, those visuals will give you those reminders constantly. And deliberately book in time for play, again, taking ownership of your calendar. So I say, burn bright in your own way. And the energised people can do even more. And we should take care of ourselves and take care of each other. And what my granddad would say is, hard yakka is good, but don't be a dingo. Thank you.